Olin, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing good. I was wondering why I felt so good. I remember David was the one who told me after they beat the Cowboys, do you realize that's the first time they won at home in over a year? 1-14 since week 8 with the two losses. Now we got six in a row. Now we got three home wins. You guys are the best morning show in Illinois. We're all doing good.
Well, things are going in the right direction, Olin. And,
Yes.
and and yeah, that's a good way to look at it. You're Mr. Positivity, as always. So when you look
Well,
at
things have really changed then.
yes, they have.
Olin the optimist. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yes.
But
Thank you. Thank you.
but when you look at yesterday and in the big picture,
Mhm.
Olin, I just wonder you have a quarterback that led your team back again. You have a coach that seems to be having this sense of instilling this belief in the locker room where players believe that something's going to happen in a positive way in the fourth quarter. Now they have 6 wins. I know it wasn't a pretty one, but is there any? How do you approach that from a player perspective, from a leader perspective, from a coaching perspective after you win a game like that?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? They're down 10 with 6:13 left in the fourth quarter, ball at the 9 yard line. And Caleb Williams is probably in the huddle telling everybody this is exactly where we want to be, right? And they're going to drive down the field twice, score two touchdowns, and win the game. Obviously, as a leader on that team, you take a look at the film and you try to keep correcting things because the wins haven't been pretty. There's arguments that if I heard you guys talking about if Jackson Dart is in the game, the Giants probably win that game. They get the cause fumble by C.J. Gardner Johnson, and Austin Booker finishes it off. They pick up that ball, they get a field goal out of that, puts them back in the game again. Another takeaway, and the Giants. I think they're 2-8 now. They're not having a great year. They have a lot of injuries. So you take a clear-eyed view at the kind of win you had, and you realize, look, man, we got to get a lot better if we want to go where we want to go. We want to get to our goals of, winning the North and never taking it back. The things that we heard Ryan Post say, getting to playoff games, winning playoff games. But at all that time, they are 6-3. You are in the driver's seat right now. Your schedule is about to get harder. If you're a veteran in that locker room, you make sure the young guys realize that. You make sure they realize that things are about to get tougher, and it starts this week on the road in Minnesota, a tough place to play.
Yeah, and against a really good defensive coordinator who will attack you from all different directions, against another young quarterback from that class who is kind of finding his way a little bit. I just wonder when you think about the shift into the division games. Does that
Mm-hmm.
does that add anything to it? Do players know when they're in a division game as opposed to just a normal game? Can you afford to hold back anything or to have a little extra during a division game, or is that just what's the term? Familiarity breeds contempt.
It's a really good question because look, obviously most football teams, and I don't want to speak for Ben Johnson, but your first goal, stated team goal, is winning the division, right? Going against your division opponents, beating the Lions, which we didn't do the first time, beating the Vikings, which we didn't do the first time, and then of course beating the ever-hated Packers, right? So in our division, got to go out there, get a win. A good stat would be to look at when's the last time we got a division win, or where's the last time we won up there in Minnesota. Will check that out as this week goes on, Molly. But like you're talking about, really important your division games to win, to compete in your division. The Bears have a tough division. They're always tough matchups. You're really familiar with your opponents. They have seen Minnesota. They'll go back. They probably started already this morning watching Minnesota film, studying them. You know what they do. You know what kind of challenges they present. You know it's going to be loud in that stadium for the offensive line. Will Caleb be able to run around like he did yesterday and avoid all the sacks? And a lot of that was just him running around. Looked like he had the time and he just was holding the ball. And we don't get to see the all 22 until later today, but it looked like he was just holding the ball. Who knows why he was holding the ball? I know there's a lot of talk about the drops. I think the ball placement and the drops always work together, but these are things when you're going on the road in Minnesota. I don't think you can have, right, unless the Bears go +4 or +5 again, and then all bets are off and the game is tight again. But the Chicago Bears obviously have to play better than they did in the middle of that game yesterday, going up there to Minnesota to beat them. But they're still won 6 out of their last 7. They're still 6-3. All of that is true. We can give you all the stats of how bad the defenses were that they played, how bad the records are of the teams that they played, and those stuff is all true, and they know it to be true. And they tell us all the time, right? What's the number one thing we hear coming out of that building? We're all truth tellers. Well, here we are telling you the truth. The teams you beat have not been very good. None of the teams you played in the last 8 weeks have a winning record right now. None of the defense were ranked over 22. You played the number 32 and number 31 ranked rushing defenses. This Minnesota defense at home will be the toughest defense you've seen in a while. And by the way, your defense hasn't stopped anybody in a while either.
So you've been on both sides of that conversation, Nolan. So, like outside of the locker room, what you just said is something we can nod our heads in agreement and say, well, that's something they need to worry about because they're 9 games in and is really a viable playoff contender. But if you're in that locker room, do you care? Do you care that you don't have many victories against winning teams? Do you care that you haven't beaten a team with a winning record? Or do you just care about the fact that here you are 9 games in and you're talking about the playoff possibilities instead of where you're going to draft?
You don't care in the point that you won't apologize for your record, right? You won't apologize for who they put on the field. You won't apologize for the way you've beaten certain teams, right? Like blocking a field goal against the Raiders, last second field goal against the Commanders, the catch by Colston Loveland, against the Bengals. You won't apologize for that, but you do care in the sense of like you have to get things corrected. You understand you haven't played the best teams. You understand the focus it's going to take. If you're a leader in that locker room, you may even be saying what we're saying, right? Okay, like remember, guys, remember who we played. Remember how bad that Bengals defense was against stopping the run. The Giants defense bad on the edges against stopping the run. So just remember, this is going to be a tougher test. We have to get these little problems fixed. I saw a little more mental mistakes in the run game yesterday than I had saw the previous 2 or 3 weeks with identification, who they're going to on linebackers. So just little things like that, as a veteran, you have to point out to the young guys and say, guys, when we go on the road, we can't make these mistakes. We can't beat ourselves. We cannot have mental mistakes. Make the Vikings beat us. Make them do all the right things. Don't beat ourselves, right? And just those are the things, David, like when you're talking to Caleb, like, okay, I know you escaped all those pressures yesterday, but sometimes, man, let's get the ball out. We're talking about, drops, right? DJ Moore, it's 4th and 4. Caleb spins out, runs to his right, and guns it. I don't know, it was 20, 25 yards down the field. It's 4th and 4. I'm pretty sure that corner route wasn't what was designed, right? So what was designed there? Why didn't we throw the ball for the first down? We say, DJ dropped that ball. Well, it's a tough catch in the end zone. Would love DJ Moore to come up with that. We talk about Zacchaeus, right?
Yes.
Zacchaeus dropping the balls yesterday. That's fine if you guys want to talk about the guy making league minimum, right? I don't want to talk about him. Too much is given, much is expected. Put the ball in a little better ball placement. Let's all get better so we can all go out there to Minnesota, compete against a team like that, and maybe still one on the road in our division.
It's great stuff. I think, Olin, when we talk about the Bears in the division, you go back and you look at that. First of all, unfortunately, the creation of the division kind of coincided with some bad years for the Bears, so they've got a losing record by a mile in the division since the NFC North was created. But I think that they obviously won in Green Bay at the end of the year, but they've lost 2 games. They're 1-7 since 2024. You go back to 2021, and you got 3 wins, and I guess this is 17 losses as I added up in my head. That is just scary bad. And you want to be competing, you want to do better, but you're going to have to get better on defense. I thought it was really interesting that Ben Johnson kind of talked about how it's a changing story, depending on who's available and who's on the field, that they could do better when they get some of the secondary back, when they get the linebacker back. But it just that wasn't the most confidence building comment I've ever heard.
Yeah, and he even mentioned I haven't even got to know Kyler Gordon yet, right? When we talked about the question was asked, the C.J. Gardner-Johnson, his personality, his energy, does it bring what Kyler Gordon brings? And he said, man, I got to be honest with you, I haven't even got to know him. Jalen Johnson hasn't been there. T.J. Edwards has been out.
Yes.
We saw Chris Williams, the defensive tackle, a defensive end yesterday, right?
Yes.
Especially on Dart's one of Dart's touchdowns. I thought he came too far inside, but maybe the first time he played defense end, I was wondering if the Bears this morning talking about re-signing Passanio off the coach practice squad and putting him on the active roster because their defensive end. I mean, Austin Booker, played a lot yesterday, but against the run, man, you guys saw late in the game, they were running right at these guys, right? When it's Austin Booker and Shoyinka and Chris Williams. And look, guys, that if I'm the Vikings with Aaron Jones and my tackles, I'm running all day at these guys, right? I'm gonna run all day at them, and then we're looking for pass rush. So they have problems right now. They have injuries. A lot of teams are saying that. The Giants are saying, don't tell me about your injury problems, right? We don't want to hear about it. It's just that time of the year right now. But the Chicago Bears, obviously with guys out, Tyreek Stevenson struggling a little bit on double moves and with his fundamentals, and Al Harris got to get him refocused, recheck back in. It's late in the year. It's that time of the year now when you got to check back in, check your fundamentals, watch film, make sure you're paying attention, because when it gets cold is when it gets tough in the NFC North. And we got to get this defense, and Dennis Allen's got to find a way to turn them around a little bit, Mully, because like you're saying, they have been struggling. And yesterday, like you guys know, Slayton goes out early. The guy had an amazing catch on the sideline. He goes out. These weren't like the top tier wide receivers that the Bengals had. And when the Giants had their starting quarterback, they were still moving the ball pretty easily. And then their starting quarterback goes out. And for one drive, we couldn't stop them on the way down the field. We couldn't stop the run game. Obviously, Noah Sewell missed that tackle on 3rd and 1. They get a big gain out of that. And then for whatever reason, Brian DeBall kicks a field goal on. They even got a 12 men on the field by the Bears. I even thought, man, I wonder if Coach Ben Johnson did that on purpose to try to get them to go for it, but I'm probably overthinking and trying to make him too much of a genius, right? But even then, think about it. The ball would have been on the half-yard line.
Yeah.
Right? And the ball said no, and Greg Olsen argued about that. They didn't like that. So a lot of things went on yesterday that these Bears got to take a look at on that film, put it all up and say, man, how do we beat the Vikings? What are we capable of? What's actually going to work up there in Minnesota?
Olin, what did you think of the Darnell Wright dropping Brian Burns play with one stiff arm to the chest, and down goes Burns? I know you probably saw that. My sense is you appreciated it.
Yeah, I really do appreciate Darnell Wright. That set, he didn't give him anything. He took everything away with his pass set, right? Kept his shoulder square, got vertical, sat in his spot, and Brian Burns had nothing, and he went for a crazy spin and really just dropped himself. And it's just his positioning, the athlete he is, the unicorn. We talked about I'm more of a narwhal while he's a unicorn, but he spins them, drops them. I mean, really, really playing good football, right? Just really enjoy watching Darnell Wright right now. I think Coach Dan Rochar has got his fundamentals cleaned up. Remember, guys, he's playing with a bad elbow, but yeah, David, really enjoyed that play. I've enjoyed a lot of what the Chicago Bears offensive line is doing. I really like what Dahlman did against Dexter Lawrence yesterday. Tough matchup for him. Probably had the best player on the Giants defense. Everyone talks about the skinny pass rushers, right? Greg Olsen likes to talk about Cole Kmet running over 170-pound nickelback while they're blocking the 350-pound nose guard, Jonah Jackson and Dahlman. Bumping a combo block up to the linebacker. Really nice stuff. B block on the backside between Tooney and Bennett. Darnell Wright one-on-one on that play. Those run blocks, that play was beautiful, but that touchdown play by Nungai, man, you want to get me going. Put that on Twitter, put that on film. Love watching stuff like that.
This segment with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Plumbers 911. Plumbing emergency, call the plumbing professionals, available 24/7 at 1-833-PLUM-911. We talked in the postgame yesterday. I believe you said when the team is bad, they're going to show it to you. You just wait, and they're going to lose the game for you. And the play that really stood out to me was the punt. You think about the shanked punt that got the Bears like a feet away. It felt like maybe 10, 15 yards from a field goal. And then you could start thinking, hey, maybe they can score here. And it changed the momentum of the game and probably the result of it as well, because it wasn't like you had to march down the field. You were already at midfield. Huge play in that game.
Yeah, it really was. And I think the Giants, I'm trying to look it up right now, but I think they had a couple penalties before that also, right? So when you talk about like when you're playing a team that is losing, let them find a way to lose, right? We used to say, like, they're not like this anymore. And obviously, Dan Campbell calling plays out there now misses Ben Johnson a little bit, even though they're still putting up 50. But, we should say, let the Lions lion, right? Let the Giants Giants. Let them do what they do. Let them overrun their quarterback. Let them make penalties. It's cold out here today. Eventually, they'll make the mistakes to beat themselves. The kind of thing you're trying to think as a football team who wins games. What by that it just means let them make the mistakes, right? Don't try to be great. You've got to be good. Be good enough times in a row, and that equals great, right? You don't have to do anything extraordinary. Just do your job. You guys hear this from Bill Belichick. You guys hear this from everybody else. Bad teams, when they find usually the coach stands in the room in the morning, he'll say something like, guys, if we just would have, and we just had 2 or 3, 4 plays, right? If we just would have punted the ball, right? Fabio, I didn't know he was playing punter for the Giants, but I think he kicked it off his shin. I don't even know how far he kicked it, but to your point, Mully, they will eventually make mistakes, and that happened yesterday.
They had 2 sacks in that series before the shanked punt, and it was a clutch play. Gardner Johnson had one of his 2 sacks, and you look at the timing of some of those plays. Did you see what you liked or more of what you wanted to see or needed to see from Montes Sweat? Yesterday he had a sack and a half, and Olin, it seems like, at least the numbers suggest, and sometimes the tape as well, he's playing at a higher level than he was earlier in the year.
Yeah, one I think Montez's sack you're talking about was on that drive where it was a boot and Russell Wilson just slid down, right?
Yeah.
And took the sack, so keep the clock running. And who knows why the Giants call a boot in that situation when they're averaging 5 yards a carry in the fourth quarter, but that's for them to talk about. But to your point, David, Montez has showed up a lot more lately, right? And he has been a lot more active and getting more pressure. And I just talked about his counterparts, and Dio is out. And I know a lot of Chicago and Illinois, and a lot of us watching, were wanting more from Dio, but they really have taken a step back in the run defense without him. So Montez is level, and Mully's talked about a lot of his reps and playing time are going to have to rise up, and he's going to have to do more. And we talk about, Crosby playing a lot for the Raiders. We talked about on the pregame yesterday, and Montez is going to have to play a lot more football now with that injury to Dio there. But I have seen him. He has been more active. There are a lot of injuries on this defense, and we need guys like him to step up, and he has shown up a little more, making big plays. Obviously, the offense is still getting their yards, still getting the end zone, but it seems like we need a big play. It's either him or Tremaine Edmonds or Billings, or lately has been C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Great stuff, Olin. Appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Olin.
Appreciate it, guys.